Hello Internet! So I'm still away with work, I'm still in the hotel room, and I've got another small game that I'm going to have a little play with and show to you. One that I've mentioned on the channel before but never actually shown you. That is Shadow of the Elder Gods. Now I've played a couple of Cthulhu based games, mostly Cards of Cthulhu and Tiny Epic Cthulhu, but this is what I consider to be the ultimate small box Lovecraftian experience. Originally it was going to be called Shadows over Arkham, I believe, but they had to rename it for legal reasons. It's just a tiny little box game, fits in a bag really easy, 1 to 4 players, and it's described as Micro-Ameri-Trash. So I'm going to set up a game now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it works, and play a little game. So here's the setup for a basic game. It looks like there's a lot going on, and there is. I'll kind of explain the basic concept of the game. So you have the 4 characters. There's 5 to choose from, but a single player game will have 4. I'll just pick these at random. I've got Francis Wayland Thurston, Dr. Henry Armitage, the librarian from Miskatonic University, Minnie Wong, and Jack Galveston. And they all have different special abilities and a couple of stats you track. The stats you track with these little markers are knowledge, which is used to defeat the threats, bils, which is equivalent to cash, muscle, which is the amount of physical help you have to keep down the cultists in the city, and lastly madness. Madness is the real risk. Each different character has a different max madness they can take, and if you go over that point and you end your turn with more madness than your track allows, that's it, game over. That character has gone completely crazy and betrayed the rest of the crew so they can help the dark forces take over. You have the board, which the characters will move to. They start off the board, but this is where they move around, and you can go from any location, but different locations have different special actions you can take there. So at the university you can gain knowledge, at the first Bank of Arkham you can gain money, you can gain bills, at the street club you can gain muscle, at the police station you can risk turning knowledge into muscle. It's like you're reporting something to the police and they might give you some backup depending on what you're reporting. And at Minnie's Roadhouses you can kind of gamble, so you can spend money to possibly get knowledge or spend knowledge to possibly get money. It's a risk-taking one there. We have these tokens. These are corruption. At some point, corruption will come into the town, and if at any point there's more than 10 corruption anywhere, or across the board as a whole, you lose. The dark forces have won. And corruption is only defeated when you use your muscle. When you move to that location, use your muscle to defeat them. You have the asset deck here, and the different items you can buy. You've got to go to the right location and spend the right amount to get these extra bonuses, which can give you handy things to do during your turn. For any random generation, there's the Randomnomicon. So this is just a deck of cards with a number between 0 and 4, a state of success or failure, and a random location. So for anything random you need to generate, this covers it. Now, if there is some corruption on a certain location, and your character goes there and wants to use the special ability of that location, like here he wants to go to the street club to hire some muscle, because there's corruption, before you can even try and do that, you've got to pull a Randomnomicon card, and it'll give you a success or a failure. So in that case, I failed. And although this character would have used his action, he would not be able to perform the function. So to keep the city useful, you've really got to keep the corruption down, but it can really also slow down your progress quite dramatically. Now, the real key to the game is the threat deck. So this, I'm playing against the Yog-Sothoth character, and this deck is built based on rules on the back of the player aid. Shows you how to construct the threat deck at the beginning. But Each card will have one side which shows you what's happening in the city, so in this case the Surreal Fog. The location with the Ring of Shadows gains 5 corruption. The Ring of Shadows is an item that one player always has, which I'll go to in a minute. So that's got 1 threat pip, and during the game, when you get to the player whose turn is holding the threat start marker, which does move around, they'll get 1 threat. So if it goes around the turn, it goes back to their turn and they haven't dealt with this location, then that's it, game over. So here you've got the Surreal Fog, but on the back of the deck, you've got the actual thing that is the real danger that's going on. And here's Hidden Ruins. And each of these will have their own effect. And as you defeat and close off these threats, you cycle through the deck, going through all the locations one by one, until eventually you will end up facing Yog-Sothoth himself. And you can only tackle the threats if you have the Ring of Shadows. Every time you use it, you'll gain a shadow token. When you have 3 of them, you can't use the Ring of Shadows anymore, so you've got to give it to another character. So that keeps it flowing as to who's going to be most important to defend it. I mean, this is just a real once-over the rules. It's not a complicated game, but it is quite complicated to explain. But when you get into the flow of it, it does make a lot more sense. But what you find is you're constantly having the corruption build up on the town, your madness is going up, and when your madness is up, you can't use your own special abilities. And you need to get your knowledge up to defeat the threats in here. So there's a constant balance between getting money to buy items, to get the muscle to defeat the corruption, to get the knowledge to defeat that, all before the losing the threat and losing to the Great Terror. So I'm just going to have a quick little play now, and I'll give you the once-over of my thoughts afterwards. So that's the end of that game. Unfortunately, I didn't make it. I didn't defeat Yog-Sothoth. Poor Frances Wayland Thurston, who barely left the university at all, she was just researching and fighting the forces all along, succumbed to the madness at the end of her turn. I was 1 card away from facing Yog-Sothoth, and I had to take 3 madness, and I just didn't have any way of changing that before the end of her turn. Overall, I think it's a really fun game. Due to the corruption appearing and the madness growing on characters, there's always a bit of an ebb and flow of what you're trying to achieve. And even though it's diceless, the Randomnomicon does a really good job of giving you some random outcomes to things. But it's not too random. There's not a huge range of numbers. There's not a huge amount of places where the randomness gets involved. So you can plan to mitigate things and know what to expect from things. If there's corruption there, if I can get 2 muscle there, I can solve that, and I can definitely get more muscle easily without having to take a random chance on it. So yeah, overall, I think it's a really good game. Could be great with multiple players, but even solo, it just plays really well, and there's such a variety from randomly building the deck from a collection of cards, randomly building the threat deck, and the different elder gods you can face. There's a lot of variety here, and it's everything I've always wanted from a solo Cthulhu game in such a small box. I just don't think it can be beaten. So for me, this is the perfect small box Cthulhu game. Good for 1 player, good for multiple players, really leans into the theme. It really makes you feel like there's horror in the city which you're fighting against through physical means and gaining knowledge of the corruption around you. But the downside is, I first got this game on a Kickstarter over 10 years ago now, and Laboratory and their website seems to no longer exist. If you want to have a good, fun Cthulhu game experience which you can chuck in a bag and take to a hotel and play on a teeny tiny little desk, or take around your friend's house and face the horrors together. I can't recommend this enough, but you're going to have to go on eBay or Board Game Geek Marketplace or somewhere like that to find a second-hand copy. You're never going to find it new. But trust me, I've had a look on eBay. It's going for about $15, $20. It's worth every penny. So are there any small box Cthulhu games that you recommend I try? I haven't tried them all, but this is definitely the best I found. If you think there's something better, I'd really like to know so I can give it a go. Just drop me a comment below and I'll check it out. But until next time, happy gaming!